Hey.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Glenn.
What's happening?
See, we're trying to catch up with you, trying to see if you got a package.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome.
Is it useful?
I don't know yet. Gotta wait for it to not snow, rain, or freeze so I can get outside there. I'll find out probably within the week. But it will serve some purpose or other, I'm sure.
I know you said you had a kind of
Cat food, melting cat food. If nothing else, that's the biggest problem I have, is that they take long enough to deliver stuff that it freezes. And, of course, when it comes into this house, it doesn't thaw. So to use it, I have to have it near a stove or on a stove.
Yeah, like maybe boil it in water or something.
Yeah. Put the can in a pot of water, and it melts.
That can use those kind of coal kind of things, and also just sticks and leaves and crap. I know probably most of your stuff is covered in snow right now, but maybe useful sometime, you know.
Yeah. Right now, the sticks are all under ice and snow, but when the spring comes, it dries up somewhat. Thanks anyways.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It'll be useful at one stage, at one point. Sooner the better. Right now, it's 0 in the house, which would be 32 degrees your temperature. And outside, it's somewhere around -4, I think it is.
It's snowing?
Snowing, yeah.
Wow, like I heard even say Chicago was 50 degrees, and it's usually cold over there, windy. But over here, it's been in the 30s.
Yeah.
It snowed the other day, but it wasn't enough to stick.
Yeah, it's almost 50 right now here.
Yeah. Wish I could get some of that.
I think you guys just get it later. Then.
Yeah. For your information, last week, I'm trying to think of the day, probably Wednesday or Thursday, there was a yell at my door, Glenn, Glenn. So I went to the door, and it was 2 members of the Ontario Provincial Police. And they said something about they had heard about the conditions that I was living in, and they wanted me to know that there were some charitable organizations in town that could be of assistance, and if I, applied, I could get them to turn on hydro. And I looked at the cop and I said, the last day that this house will ever serve as a residence for human beings has come and gone. The minute they pulled out the plug on hydro, water came in to the house at least knee to thigh high or deep in the basement.
Wow.
The roof began to leak. The ceiling in the kitchen began to seep water from the balcony on the 2nd floor. And for all intents and purposes, this house, which was built to go through exactly what it's going through now by Hydro, who did it at the beginning, 1972, and now pulling the plug 40-some years later. There you have a situation where this house is basically a cave. And I have a task to do, and that's to mind the cats until my wife, who was deported by kidnapping from you guys, without a court order, I may add, but a belief that the border security would never treat you as patsies, which they did. And when she comes back, then it'll be up to Hydro to make things right again. And that they have received notice from the Pineal Court about the items that they have to deal with. One of them is the knockdown of the house and the rebuilding of a new house on the same property. So then we went into discussions about how the OPP in our investigations over the last 30 years have proven to me that they don't do any investigations. They collect money from traffic tickets. That's what you do for a living. And us senior citizens across the province are seeing the end result of what you do. They claim a fraudulent amount of money against properties that belong to seniors. And those seniors, they make sure, are alone by killing their tenants and kidnapping their wives. And when the senior is alone, they wait until that person dies. And then you have a system for collecting by lawyers from the sale of the property. That's what you're defending as policemen. That's your role in life, is you have replaced the mafia, providing support for the biggest thieves in the province, the Ontario Hydro Corporation. So don't ask me to go to town and beg to an organization, United Appeal, that has collected money from the people who donate, thinking it's going to help the poor, when in fact the money they're donating is being stolen by the bureaucrats at Revenue Canada, by the bureaucrats at the Border Security, by the bureaucrats in Hydro itself, by the telephone companies, bureaucrats. I said, in 1789, the bureaucrats told the monarchs that they were self-serving and not caring about the population. And they thought at the time that the reasonable solution to the problem would be to cut their heads off, which they did. Well, guess what? Now the role has been reversed. Now it's the bureaucrats that are self-serving and don't give a damn about the population. And if the people of Ontario and Canada thought it was worthwhile to build a hockey rink in December on Parliament Hill, which never got to be used for a hockey game, professional hockey game, because the weather was not conducive to playing outdoors, then $5 or $6 million for a hockey rink, if that's possible to be spent without anybody asking permission, I would suggest that 12 guillotines on Parliament Hill would be a better solution. And that the bureaucrats that you guys protect should be locked up one by one and have the same solution they imposed upon the monarchs in 1789 in Paris. They walked away after giving me their card, and the guy who came and was doing the talking is known as detachment analyst. And he said, please call me if there's something you see that we could help with. So I spoke to the cell, and they said, call them up, which I did, and tell them two things. Number one, the post office imposes their reasoning for not delivering packages to me that are bigger than the mailbox. Something they do for everybody else and have done for years, and something that they've been doing here for years. They don't want to do it because by holding the packages, which are usually cat food or food for me, it'll be frozen by the time I spend $100 to go to town, which is what it costs. A return journey to the post office is $100 to pick up frozen food because they won't deliver it as part of their job in stealing from seniors. I want you to go to the post office and tell them to stop doing what they're doing. Next, number two, start the process for bringing my wife back to her home. She's part owner, probably even born of nuns in 1955 and sold by those nuns to people who then took her to California. I want you to do those two things. And guess what? He said, I agree, I'll do it. The next day, parcels began arriving at the gate. So he must have gone over and talked to somebody. However, I have no idea what's happened with item number 2. And I hope to find something out by the weekend.
This sounds surprising that they would actually help you out of it.
Yeah, it's a shocker. Why have they turned around? And they don't argue anything I tell them about the fact that they're not investigators. They are givers of traffic tickets. No argument whatsoever. And I tell them, we've been investigating you for 30 years. And we found out 30 years ago when you were assigned the task of investigating the people that I had charged on Parliament Hill, and that the court had agreed that trials should go ahead, and the Premier of Ontario stepped in and stopped them from going ahead, saying that the OPP would reinvestigate what had been, in fact, investigated already by the courts. And you guys never did anything. You don't even have evidence that you spoke to anyone over a 3-year period, and the case just kind of flittered and died and went away, with only one of 16 people charged eventually going to court, but with no mention of our involvement anywhere. So, and they didn't argue. Why? What's going on? What is the change that would cause the police to start becoming policemen again? I have no idea. Now, if we could only get the media to start being the media instead of the storytellers that they are.
Yeah. They're able to have everybody repeat a lie or whatever.
Yeah.
They're able to make something, an illusion, real to people. It seems real.
Yeah. You got it.
Did you hear on, I don't know, it's probably another media conjured frenzy or whatever, but they said something about 2020, this person, Oprah, will be running for president.
Yeah.
And in the future. I don't know. I don't know if that will be possible. I don't even know if things will be around at that time. Have you been, like, keeping an eye out what's going on out in the world and stuff? Or?
I have one portable radio, and I try to listen to news at 6 o'clock. That's my extent of keeping in touch with the world. It's on CBC, and they are the worst when it comes to not doing anything. However, maybe as part of the same program as the OPP, Jennifer says that they have this thing where they put on a statement and then get comments from the public. And she has made comments in the past, and they never get printed. But in the last couple of weeks, they've been printing her comments. Why? Why the change?
2020. Everyone has to know soon.
Getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the cell told me last week that those people who have listened and assisted in any way the journey that we're on will, when they die, have 10 times more happiness than they've ever had while here. While those who tried to stop us will have 30 times more worry and problems than they ever had while they were here. That is, according to them, an established rule of what happens in life after death. 10 times more good stuff for some, 30 times more bad stuff for the rest.
It's something that I always think about, every day. It's something, when you think about after death and learning and these type of things, it's something.
Think of the double helix, which is the symbol for genetics, and disentangle it, and you end up with two equals. And according to them, and if we understood physics enough, we would know that a person can be in two places at the same time under the condition of a disentanglement. And that's what's going to happen, is that one part dies and the other part lives on and waits to be reunited with a new body. But when it gets reunited, what it did in the last life is the price for having happiness in the new life.
So the ones that get to harm this path that we're on, are they serving that time still here, or will they go to the next universe but have to relearn over there?
I don't know for certain. I can only guess they stay here if they're negative and move on if they're positive. Because that's the only way I can imagine it happening.
Like I say, it's this picture of, fifth dimension, and something I try to understand more, and it's something that's always in mind. It does affect the decisions that I make in life.
Well, we'll learn more over the next couple of years, at least here we will, whether anybody listens or not after we hear it. and try the best we can to explain it. You know, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have the ability to grasp the details of how all of that genetic engineering can proceed. But I have an open mind that can see the bigger picture. And I kind of get it, you know. A lot of details need for me to be clarified, some of which are too technical that I don't think I could grasp at all, but every day it gets clearer and clearer and clearer that we're heading for a dead end here, and that machines are replacing people. I don't know how it is in your world, but certainly I've been listening to how things happen in California, and you don't have a cashier at the...
Oh, yeah. That's been around for years now. It's been like that. I remember when they first started, it's like a self-checkout type of thing. That's what they do now. Yeah. Now, when a lot of the phone services, how, with customer service, stuff like that. Now, everything's automated.
Apparently, the reasoning behind it is not that they want people to be unemployed. What they want is unemployed people to agree to fly off into space so that their family they leave behind is fed by their salary. And they need billions of people to visit billions of places in outer space in this universe. No guarantee of ever returning. So normal people would not agree today, but normal people that are unemployed agree to almost anything in order to feed their children and their family.
In the Nazi philosophy, one of the tenets in there, they call it altruism. And it basically means to give your life for that cause. Yeah. Whatever cause. So that's what they want from us. Give our lives.
So that your family can survive.
Yeah.
Have you been paying attention to that SpaceX program?
Yeah.
Elon Musk, right, where he makes those rockets that can be reusable.
Yeah.
So he can send people to space and then come back down. And I think he wants to go to Mars this year and drop a Tesla off there. Because he owns Tesla. Yeah. So that could be related to that with these reusable rockets and that kind of technology.
That's why they want to kind of divide the world. The space program will be in the north, while the space managers will be in the south. And the two only deal with a common denominator, a place at the equator. But never do the people of the north ever meet the people from the south, because they live in two different worlds. One, get in your rocket and go, and the gang that manages that happening will live in Canada and Russia, and the middle gang of Scandinavia in the middle. Whereas the southern gang will live in Antarctica, while ships can travel from the north to the equator, but no further on both sides. So the orders come from Antarctica will be given to people who live near the equator, and that will then be walked across the equator to the people in the north, and they'll take the orders north to where the people are shipped off into space. And that's why all these wars, pestilence, famine, and disease have only one purpose, and that's refugees. Line them up for the task at hand. Send them to the north, and they'll all end up being producers of space travelers. Keep them in the south, and they'll all end up profiteering from the finds done in space by the space travelers. But never shall they leave this universe. Fifth dimension is the only place where you leave this place and go to a brand new place that has none of this shit they've left behind.
With the people who started the system, looking at like a lot of the code or whatever, it seems like they try to imply that they can leave. Like I've heard some cases, it's like they try to imply like they have some type of ability. In other cases, it's like, no, they basically doing themselves.
That's why Hollywood exists.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood is a place where they imply the future based on the activities of the past. And Canadians run most of that. If you check the nationality of the people, not the actors as much as the producers and directors and financiers and everybody, there's a Canadian background there. To me, in looking at the details of all of that, talking with the cell, it almost appears to me today, and I don't have final judgment on it, that the Mississippi to the west coast is Canada in the United States. It's all, Las Vegas and the mafia and all of that stuff around there was created by Canadian money and the export of booze during the period where booze was not allowed in the U.S. Hollywood was created by people who have Canadian ancestry. So California and Canada do not start with CA accidentally. To me, the United States, built on the people who traveled from Europe, ends at the Mississippi, Chicago being the boundary in the north. The current change in climate is, in fact, making it impossible for maple trees to grow in the area of the furthest southern place they grow, and making it possible for them to grow in the area north of where they used to stop growing. So all of the maple trees that exist south of the Canada-U.S. border will disappear, and other trees will take their place, while north in Canada, where maple trees cannot grow today, will start growing and have started growing, and the conditions are right for them to grow further and further north. Somebody knew that the day would come when the temperatures would change to that extent that the south would become arid while the north would become fertile. Somebody knew. And all of the things that have gone on Earth since the Ice Age were planned. Hurry up, use the space as a laboratory, get the answers to all the technical things we don't understand today because we don't have the laboratories that could work out these problems. And when they do, shut the system down, divide it into space travelers and earthlings, and begin the new process of exploring this universe while the control, which is now hidden, can then come out of the underground and operate openly on a green Antarctica. That's what I see so far. I gotta go because it's gonna be dark in a few minutes, so I gotta feed the goats.
Yeah.
Thank you for your gift. Much appreciated. We'll let you know how it develops.
Yeah.
Okay.
When can we call you again, like this week, if possible?
Today is Monday, and I'm going to go to town on Saturday, so it would have to be probably Thursday.
Okay. All right.
The rest of the time, I'm busy.
Busy man. You always been a busy man.
Okay.
All right.
Bye for now.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Love you all.
Love
Live
you.
long.
Yeah, live long.
Love you too. All right.
Love you. All right.
All right.
Bye.